My parents never realized I was standing behind them at our grand family dinner. She's too foolish to notice we only keep her around for her money. So I let them think that, until it was too late for them to fix it. The evening was grand, just as it always was. A long table covered in ivory linen stretched across the Camelot dining hall. Crystal glasses sparkled under the glow of the chandeliers, and the air smelled of aged wine and roasted duck. Laughter echoed across the room. Their laughter. My parents, my aunts, my uncles, everyone I had believed was my family. They all sat there, wine glasses in hand, plates filled with food I had unknowingly paid for. I had stepped away from the table to take a phone call. When I returned, I paused behind the heavy velvet curtains, overhearing a conversation that shattered me. She's too stupid to notice we only keep her around for her money. My father's voice rang out, dripping with arrogance. The room erupted in laughter. My mother sighed dramatically, taking another sip of wine. Honestly, I thought she would have caught on by now. But, no. Our little idiot just keeps paying for everything. Happy to be included. A few of my cousins snickered. Pathetic, one of my uncles added. She actually thinks she belongs here. I couldn't breathe. The warmth of the evening vanished, replaced by a creeping cold that spread through my chest. I clutched the curtain's edge, my nails digging into the fabric as their words drilled into my skull. I had worked so hard. I built a business from the ground up. I thought they were finally proud of me. Instead, I was just their personal ATM. They didn't love me. They didn't even respect me. They were using me. I could have stormed in, confronted them, screamed at them. But as my pulse pounded in my ears, I forced myself to breathe. I swallowed the fire in my throat and let my face go blank. If they thought I was stupid, if they truly believed I was blind to their manipulation, then I would let them think that because they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. I forced a smile and stepped back into the dining hall. "Everything okay?" My mother asked sweetly, like she hadn't just stabbed me in the heart. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Just a business call." My father gave an approving nod. "Good girl. You should always be working. That's why you're successful." I clenched my jaw. "You mean that's why you're successful?" I sat down, letting them continue their act. The conversation shifted to vacations, expensive watches, stock market trends, things they had never worked for but indulged in because of me. I had funded their lifestyle, thinking I was proving my worth to them. Not anymore. I smiled to myself, a plan already forming. Let them enjoy their luxuries while they could, because soon it would all be ripped away. The next morning, I made the first move. I called my financial advisor, Jacob. "I want to remove all family members from shared accounts." Immediately, Jacob hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "That includes all of them," I said sharply. "Freeze all the cards except mine. If they try to use them, decline the transactions." By afternoon, my father called me, furious. "What the hell is going on?" He barked. My card was declined at the golf club. I feigned confusion. "Really? That's strange." He cursed under his breath. "Fix it now." I didn't. Instead, I watched as their illusion of wealth began to crumble. A week later, I attended a high-profile charity gala, one that my family had only gained access to because of me. They arrived in their designer wear, oblivious to the fact that tonight, their world would collapse. When it was my turn to speak, I walked to the stage, my heart pounding. I took a deep breath and smiled at the audience. "It's an honor to be here tonight, and I want to thank those who supported me, not because they wanted something from me, but because they believed in me." The room quieted. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I turned, my eyes locking onto my father. "Unfortunately, I've also learned that some people only love you when you're useful to them." A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. "So, as of today, I am cutting all financial ties with those who took advantage of my success." Gasps. Murmurs. I saw my mother grip the tablecloth, her knuckles white. It was done. The morning after the gala, my phone was flooded with missed calls and unread messages, all from my parents. I didn't answer. Instead, I took a long sip of my coffee and watched as the chaos unfolded. By noon, my mother's name flashed on my screen again. This time, I picked up. "Hello." I answered, my voice calm, indifferent. "How dare you?" she screeched. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The bank froze our accounts. Our cards are getting declined. We can't even get into our country club." I swirled my coffee, leaning back in my chair. "Oh, that's strange," I said, my tone eerily similar to hers from the night at the dinner table. My father's voice boomed in the background. "Fix this. Now." I almost laughed at the entitlement dripping from his voice. I had funded their entire lifestyle, yet they still spoke to me like a child, like I owed them something. I tapped my fingers against the table. "I don't think I will," I said finally. Silence. Then, my mother's voice dropped to a sickly sweet tone. "Darling, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Why don't we sit down? And I heard everything. I cut in. My voice was calm, but cold. Another silence, but this time it was heavy. What? She whispered. I was standing behind you at the family dinner, I said, letting my words sink in. I heard you all. Every single word. My mother sucked in a breath. My father muttered something under his breath. Then, he cleared his throat. Look, sweetheart. You're overreacting. We were joking. Joking? That was their excuse? I let out a dry laugh. Joking? That's funny because you didn't sound like you were joking when you called me an idiot and said I was only useful for my money. No, honey. I hung up. Let them stew in their panic because this was only the beginning of their downfall. By the end of the day, their world was unraveling. Their luxury cars? Repossessed. Their lavish country club membership? Revoked. The mansion they flaunted for years? They received a final warning from the bank. Without my money paying their mortgage, they would lose it within weeks. And the best part? Their so-called friends, the ones who had flocked to them when they were dripping in money, vanished. I watched as their once pristine lives turned into a nightmare of desperate phone calls and ignored voicemails. It was poetic. They had spent years looking down on me, laughing at me behind my back. Now, the entire world was laughing at them. I didn't think things could get worse for them. But then, the media caught on. After my announcement at the gala, whispers spread across the upper-class circles that my parents had been living off my success. The whispers turned into rumors. And the rumors turned into headlines. Self-made entrepreneur cuts ties with family after years of financial abuse. Billionaire heiress exposes her own parents. They only kept her around for her money. My parents had spent their whole lives trying to climb the social ladder. Now, they were the laughingstock of high society. Their business acquaintances stopped returning their calls. Their invitations to exclusive events? Revoked. The people who once sucked up to them were now mocking them, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Weeks passed. They had lost everything. The house? Gone. Their designer clothes and jewelry? Pawned off to pay debts. The country club? They were banned. The once arrogant, untouchable couple who looked down on me was now drowning in debt. And yet, even after everything, they still thought they could manipulate me. One evening, my father showed up at my office. He looked different. The expensive suits were gone. He was wearing a worn-out blazer. His face was hollow, and his once proud posture was now defeated. For a moment, a tiny part of me felt pity. Then I remembered everything. I crossed my arms. What do you want? He gave me a rehearsed sigh. Sweetheart, we made a mistake. We should have treated you better. I raised an eyebrow. Should have? He hesitated. What I mean is, we were wrong to. I cut him off. If you're here to apologize, say it outright. He clenched his jaw. I waited, but the words never came, because he didn't actually feel guilty. He just wanted me to fix his mess. I exhaled sharply. I see. You don't actually regret what you did. You regret getting caught. My father's expression darkened. You ungrateful little. I laughed, shaking my head. There it is. The real you. His face twisted in anger. After everything we've done for you. I leaned forward. What exactly did you do for me? Silence. I nodded. That's what I thought. Then, I stood up. You need to leave. His mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, my father had no power. And I had all of it. The next day, my mother tried a different approach. She sobbed over the phone, talking about how she missed me, how she loved me, how family should stick together. I let her cry. Then I asked, if you miss me so much, why did you laugh while calling me an idiot? Dead silence. I smiled. Thought so. And I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to them. The days after I cut off my parents were eerily quiet. No more texts. No more entitled demands. No more fake warmth from a mother who had only ever seen me as a means to an end. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't begging for their validation. I was free. Yet, as I sat in my penthouse overlooking the city skyline, watching the lights flicker below, I couldn't shake the feeling that this silence was temporary. People like my parents, they never gave up without a fight. And I knew. The storm was coming. It started with a letter, delivered to my office in a gold-trimmed envelope, one of the last relics of their former arrogance. I recognized my father's elegant, looping handwriting. For a moment, I debated tossing it directly into the shredder. But, curiosity won. I unfolded the thick paper and read the words that reeked of desperation. My dearest daughter, we may have had our misunderstandings, but family is family. You have made your point and we respect that. However, this cannot continue. People are talking. We are being humiliated. If you do not fix this, you will regret it. Let's be reasonable. Let's discuss this like adults. Come home. Your loving father. I let out a bitter laugh. Regret it? They still thought they had leverage over me. Still thought they could scare me into coming back. They didn't understand. The old me was gone. So I took the letter, crumpled it in my fist, and dropped it into the trash. Let them suffer. I owed them nothing. 2 weeks passed, and that's when the public meltdown began. I was scrolling through my phone when I saw it. A viral video of my father, red-faced, ranting and trembling with rage, outside a country club. She's ungrateful. After everything we did for her, a child should respect their parents. We raised her. We made her who she is. And now she's punishing us? We're her family. People in the background whispered, watching his spectacle. Even the reporters looked uncomfortable. Then my mother stepped forward, her crocodile tears shimmering under the camera lights. We only ever wanted the best for her, she sobbed. And she abandoned us. What kind of daughter does that? I stared at my phone, a slow rage bubbling in my chest. This was their final trick. Playing the victims, turning the world against me. But they underestimated one thing. The truth was on my side. That same night I made my move. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began to type. A simple statement. Nothing dramatic. Nothing emotional. Just cold, undeniable facts. I was standing behind my parents at a family dinner when they laughed about how stupid I was, how they only kept me around for my money. I heard every word. They have used me for years. I have no regrets about cutting them off. I pressed post. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. People weren't stupid. They saw right through my parents' lies. Comments flooded in. You don't owe them anything. Good for you. Stand your ground. Parents like this don't deserve forgiveness. And just like that, their final trick backfired. Days passed. My parents' reputations were in ruins. Their friends had abandoned them. Their influence was dead. And that's when they made their last, pathetic attempt to pull me back in. I was sitting in my office when my assistant knocked. Your mother is here, she said hesitantly. She looks bad. I sighed. Of course she was. I could have turned her away. I should have. But a part of me, the part that still wanted closure, said, let her in. And so, I did. My mother stepped into the office, her usual air of superiority gone. Her once perfect hair was disheveled, her eyes hollow, her designer clothes cheap and wrinkled. For the first time in my life, she looked small. She sat down across from me, hands trembling. She opened her mouth. And then, she sobbed. I don't know what to do, she whispered. We've lost everything. I watched her. Waited. This was her moment. Her chance to say the one thing that might make me reconsider. I'm sorry, I said for her, watching her face closely. She froze. Her lip trembled. And then she said it. You are never supposed to find out. My heart turned to stone. That was all I needed to hear. Not I was wrong. Not I regret hurting you. Just regret that she got caught. I stood up. We're done here. Her head snapped up. Wait. But I was already walking away. Because I had nothing left to say. The moment my mother walked out of my office that day, I knew it was over. Not just the financial cutoff. Not just the public humiliation. The emotional cutoff. For years, I had fought so hard to earn their love, to be seen as something more than just a bank account with a beating heart. I had told myself over and over that if I just proved my worth, they would change. But in that moment, watching my mother's desperate, hollow gaze, I realized something life-changing. They were never capable of change. Because people who see you as a resource don't suddenly grow a conscience when that resource is gone. And for the first time in my life, I was completely free. I didn't need to destroy them. They had already destroyed themselves. With no money, no status, and no connections, my parents' lives spiraled further into ruin. My father, once a man who sneered at people who worked lowly jobs, was forced to take a manager position at a cheap used car dealership. My mother, who once bragged about her luxurious shopping sprees, was now selling cheap knockoff jewelry online, desperately trying to maintain some sense of status. And my siblings? The ones who laughed at me that night at the family dinner? They turned on each other the moment the money dried up. I heard from distant relatives that my brother had moved in with a friend, and my sister was working retail. The house, the massive mansion that they had once mocked me for not fitting into? Gone. They had spent years living on my dime, thinking it would never run out. And now, they were learning just how cold the world could be when you had no one left to manipulate. A year passed. One peaceful, glorious year. My business had grown exponentially. I was thriving in ways I had never imagined. And then, one day, out of nowhere, I received a letter. Not from my parents. From my brother. It was short. Pathetic, really. I know we messed up. I know we hurt you. But we're family. Mom and Dad are struggling. We all are. If there's any part of you that still cares, help us, please. I stared at the words, my heart stone cold. They had nothing left. And now, when they had no more options, when the world had turned its back on them, They finally wanted to act like a real family? No, that ship had sailed. I folded the letter neatly, placed it back in the envelope, and tossed it into the fire. Because I knew the truth. They didn't want me. They wanted what I could give them, and I was done giving. Years passed. I built a life they never could have imagined. My company became one of the most successful in the industry. I had real friends, real love, real happiness. And my parents? They faded into irrelevance. The last time I heard about them, they were living in a tiny run-down apartment in a city they used to look down on. No power. No influence. No wealth. No status. And most importantly, no me. They had spent their entire lives belittling me, using me, draining me dry. And, in the end, they needed me more than I ever needed them. And that was the most satisfying revenge of all. Because I didn't have to destroy them. I just had to walk away, and they destroyed themselves. Game over.